Hey everyone, Keenan right here from DyeStat.com, bringing you, well, and it could be exciting, it could be controversial, however you want to approach this DyeStat discussion, but I am thrilled. I am honored to be talking with one of the best distance runners, not only in the United States, but in the country, trying to make one of maybe probably the best comeback ever, in Shelby Houlihan, who just got done serving 4 years, 4 year ban that she had for what they want, maybe call it burrito gate or however they want to call it. But of course, if anybody knows the story about Shelby Houlihan, was tested positive for an enhancing drug. She claims that she did not use, but unfortunately, the AIU and the World Athletics did not see it that way, and so they gave her maybe what was probably the death penalty for when it comes to being suspended from the sport is she can't train with anybody and she can't compete in professional athletics. So for those that are tuning in for this episode of DyeStat Discussions, I want everyone to know this is not a praise type of deal. This is literally just having a conversation and learning more with Shelby about the whole situation. And heck, she might even learn a little bit something about herself here in this conversation. And Shelby, first of all, really, really appreciate your time hopping on here. I know this is very difficult for you, and I know right now there's a lot of nerves just because you're finally coming back to the sport after 4 years. But what the last 4 years have been like for you, I can only imagine. As an athlete, you can't the sport you've grown up and love, and you can't even do it because people tell you can't do it because they thought you cheated.
Yeah, no, first off, I do appreciate you having me on and having the conversation. But yeah, no, I mean, the last 4 years have obviously been, I mean, the hardest 4 years of my life. Like you were saying, like I've been running since I was 5. This is who I am, like who I was. All of my identity was wrapped up in it, and it was really difficult to try to like get that kind of torn away instantly. And then it's like, okay, now what? And who am I without this? It was really hard. And like, I kind of just spent the last 4 years really like taking care of myself and trying to get myself to a mentally like healthier place. So it was like a lot of therapy and a lot of really just like, okay, I can't control what's happening, but what can I control? I can figure out how I want to respond to it, and try to make the most of a really crappy situation. And I feel like I tried to do that, and I'm really proud of how I feel like I've handled it. Just traveling and trying to take like spending more time with family, doing adventures, going back to school, getting a master's degree. Yeah, just all of the things. It's been really tough, but I am excited to get back into it. Also a little nervous and scared, but I think once I get back in there, rip the band-aid off, hopefully it'll all just like kind of come back and feel somewhat normal.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when this news broke out, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? I mean, shoot, I'm 25 now. I was 21, not to age myself, not to age you as well. I know you've been around for the sport for a while, but like that moment in time, it was just kind of like, whoa, like what is happening? Like when you think of doping scandals, maybe mostly it might be in the sprints or the hurdles, or maybe it's in the distance running that's happened outside the United States. But when you hear an American do this, it's just kind of like, I grew up watching you. I grew up idolizing you when you were at Arizona State, and all of a sudden it's just kind of like I lose all that train of thought in my back in my mind. I mean, I can only imagine what that was like for you that day. I mean, just take me through that day, just what that really was like for you as finding out this news.
Yeah, I mean, first finding out that I was had a positive test to begin with, it, I don't know. I feel like just kind of getting drug tested. I always like in the back of my mind was like, what if it ever happened that like you would get a positive test and like have no idea like what happened? Like, what if that would ever happen? And then it happened, like literally like my worst fear or, like happened. And it kind of like felt like, is this real? Like, am I like somebody pinch me, like wake me up, like this can't be happening right now. And all of the thoughts were going through my head of just like, what could have happened? Like the lab had to have made a mistake. Like someone made a mistake along the way. There's no way. I know I didn't cheat. I know I didn't put this in my body. I don't know how it's there. And so like really just like trying to like trust what I thought the drug testing process was. Um, you know, I felt like they don't ban people just because, they do their due diligence and they try to like figure it out and try to ban people that intentionally cheated. So I was just trying to like really trust that process. And it really like like looking back, I think I was just like very naive as to what that was going to look like. Um, it just wasn't at all what I thought it was, and it didn't feel fair. It felt like they really just like wanted to ban me, and like didn't really care about any explanation. Like in their eyes, like I was like this liar, cheater, and there was just like nothing that I could do or say that was going to change their mind. Like that was just how it felt to me. Yeah, it didn't feel fair, it didn't feel just. So that was really hard. And I kept trying to trust that, the truth and like the right thing would happen in the end. And then when I found out that they decided to ban me for 4 years, I just like, I don't like my whole world just like really collapsed and was not in a good place. I just remember like Jerry kneeling down because I had just finished I was getting ready to race the trial. So I had just done like my last like tune-up session. I went and cooled down and I came back and I was, getting my sweats back on and trying to kind of stretch and stuff after my cool down. And he came over on the turf and kneeled down and looked at me and he was just like, Shelb, they banned you for 4 years. And I like looked at him and I was like, you're like, I'm like waiting for him to say like, just kidding. And then he didn't. And
Some dark sense of humor if Jerry Schumacher says
I
that.
know, right? I was just like, there's no way. Like, he has to be joking. And no, and he obviously was not. And I just kind of like, but I didn't do anything. And he's like, I know you didn't. And then I just kept like, I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to do? And just kind of over and over again, repeating that. And I sat there on the turf field for about 20 or 30 minutes, just like sobbing and like trying to figure out what's next. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, none of this makes sense. This just like is not fair. I didn't do anything. I shouldn't be serving a 4-year ban. So yeah, I mean, I think when I found out, that was like really hard to figure out a way forward. And I really only did that because of the people that were around me and helping me kind of like lift me up and taking it day by day. And sometimes it was just like, just get through the next couple hours, like, or, like get through the end of the day, let's get to dinner time. And doing that for the first few months was like really the biggest thing to help me like continue forward. Is just like, let's just like one thing at a time. Because if you like really like dove too far into like, what am I going to do in 4 years? Like it just felt so dark and overwhelming. So it was really like, let's stay present. Let's try to just like chunk it down and like really focus on right now.
And it was kind of a weird time too with, COVID kind of beginning at that time too. I mean, I know it was a couple months before. Actually, it might have been even during COVID when all this stuff was still going on. What conversations did you have with yourself in your mind to how close you thought about walking away from this sport for good because maybe you felt like the sport betrayed you in some fashion or some way?
Yeah, I would say like right away, I think finding out that I was banned for 4 years, like that's really the point where I was like, this is the end of my career. Like, and that's horrible that's how it ended. Like, what was all of that work for? Like, just to like be discredited and be like, act like, or like, I guess, make it publish that I'm like this cheater, like when I'm not. Like, what was it all for? Like, what was the point? And that was like really hard to justify or like just kind of like accept. And then like I'd say shortly after, I ended up only like stopping running for about 3 weeks before I started running again. And I'd say within the first like week or 10 days, it just kind of like, I don't know, that like stubbornness and like, fuck you type of attitude kind of came over. And it was just like, I'm not going to let anyone decide what my career is going to look like, what my life's going to look like. Like, I don't have control over what's happening and I can't race, but like, I can still run. I still love this. Um, so I'm just going to keep doing it because I want to do it, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to at least try. Because that is like a huge way I make decisions, is just like, okay, if I walk away, that's fine, but like, am I going to wonder what would have happened if I came back and just tried? Like, and I don't want to live my life wondering like, what if? And so that was like a big catalyst too, and just like, you know what, I'm going to do this for me. I'm going to come back. I still feel like I have a lot of potential and left, like ability left to prove. So I'm going to find out that what that is, and maybe it's not during my quote unquote prime or something, you know, like I don't know, like I don't know what I could have done ages 27 to 31 or 32, but you know, I can find out what I'm going to do at 32 and on, and I'm going to try to focus on that.
In sports, you know, there's always the doping scandals, primarily probably in baseball is like the first one I really think of when it comes to sports like that. I mean, do you look at some of those instances, you know, like Mark McGuire, a Barry Bonds, a Roger Clemens, and kind of just like look at like what did you guys do for yourself when Major League Baseball? Sorry, you guys can't play because you decided to take the steroids. Not that I'm saying that you did, or I'm not saying that you didn't either, but I mean, I can only imagine what your mind was like in trying to like compare yourself to other instances.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't like look at anything like that because like I knew I didn't, and I didn't. It like really like I get so mad when I know that I'm now compared to people that did cheat, and like I'm like lumped in with them, and that like absolutely infuriates me. I like hate it. And like now knowing like, or when I hear about people that do choose to cheat, it's just like even more of like just hatred, because I'm like I I hate that I'm associated with you. You know, it's just
Mhm.
like that's so frustrating to me. Um, and like I can't do anything about it. You know, it's just like I I wish I had the truth, because if I did, like I wouldn't have just served a 4-year ban, and I don't know what happened, but like it is really infuriating to have to be associated with people that do choose to cheat. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't, I like I said, I don't really like look to people like that, or I haven't, I guess, over the last 4 years. But I will say, like, it is extremely lonely to have to like go through this and like really be kind of exiled from the sport that I grew up around and was my entire life, and all of a sudden is just like you're kind of like banished from it. And as much as, you know, I had family and friends around me that supported me and like kept me going, it's like no one really knows what you're like feeling and going through, and that I think felt pretty lonely. And you know, I even had athletes that are in the same position reach out to me and like, hey, this is happening to me too. Like, I got a positive test and I don't know what happened, and now I'm serving a 4-year ban. Like, you know, like what advice do you have, and you know, like stuff like that. And it's just like, in some ways, I hate that. I hate that other people are also in the same spot, but I also welcome it, because it's like, okay, someone like, I understand what you're going through, you understand what I'm going through. And so in some ways, like, that's helpful. But yeah, it is really difficult to navigate, and it feels really isolating and lonely. Just no one like quite knows what you're what you're going through. And I will say, like, going through it, it's been an opportunity to have a lot of empathy for other people going through really difficult things. Like, it's just given me a huge perspective, and I can really like feel like I can really empathize with a lot of things people are feeling, whether that's like injury or stuff like that, or like just like retiring from the sport, who am I now? Like I definitely can empathize in a lot of ways in just from going through this experience. So there are some positives, but I wish it wouldn't have taken this.
Yeah. You have voiced your opinion about, how doping has like how the way they test athletes throughout the entire world and the United States as well. Like you don't, I mean, you've made it clear you don't agree with how they do the thing sometimes. So what are your feelings about, going back into testing protocols again, especially now that you've gone through that and you've unfortunately been on the side that says you are positive. So what's the approach going back into that, knowing that you're gonna have to do that again?
Yeah, I mean, I've never stopped getting tested. I've been tested over the last 4 years. Um, I think my stance, like I do support like anti-doping and like wanting it to be a clean sport. I fully support that sentiment. I think it's hard as testing procedures get more and more sensitive, and they're not always like taking into account that they might be wrong. That's where I have a hard time with it. And I have a hard time that it's 100% burden on the athlete, where it's like, if you're having these testing procedures that are super sensitive and picking up contamination cases, but it's also 100% on the athlete, like that's really hard on an athlete that has ingested something that they weren't aware of, or like there's contamination or whatever that is. Like, where do you start? Like, I can speak that from experience. It's just like, you have this positive test, like, I don't know what happened, and I'm supposed to give you an answer within a week of what happened. Like, that's the time frame. Um, I think there should be more accountability on both sides, especially at those like lower amounts that it could be potentially contamination. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard going back into it, even when I get tested now. Like, I'm scared. Um, just I don't know, and I don't know what happened. So it's like, is it going to happen again? And I've tried to take as many precautions as I can. Like, I don't take any more vitamins or supplements anymore. I don't trust anything. Like, even like my birth control, I switched out of hormone birth control and I switched to like a copper IUD because I was like, I don't know, maybe it was that. Um, I've frozen my meat that I've eaten the night before in a freezer, like just in case I got tested. Like, and it just, I don't know, it gets to the point where I'm like, is this really the answer? Like, I get that it's on the athlete and like you should be, you know, mindful of what you're putting in your body, but like when this like standards of our food are so like low, or like supplements and stuff, like, and we're putting all that burden on the athlete, that's like kind of a hard position to be put in. um so I guess, like I said, like I do support the what the organization's trying to do. I just don't think that they're protecting clean athletes, and I think that they need to like make sure that they're right when they're banning someone, because this is horrible. It's horrible to go through, and they need to do their due diligence and make sure that they're getting it right, because like until you're walking in my shoes and know what this feels like, I don't think that you can like say that it's okay that some clean athletes, might get thrown into this as well when you're trying to like pursue athletes that are cheating. It's just not okay to me. I don't think you're not holding yourself to the same standard that you're holding athletes to.
And I obviously will never be in that situation ever. I don't plan to be a professional track and field athlete like yourself, or be a professional runner. But I mean, does it kind of, excuse me, boil down to like, how USATF can protect you as an athlete? Because I think this is where it's kind of like coming around. It's like, what is USATF doing for yourself as an athlete to make sure you're being taken care of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I think it'd be really, I'm just spitballing ideas. But like I think
Well,
it'd
I
be,
am too. Like, I have no idea if
yeah,
USATF has any control whatsoever about what the drill. I mean, I'm sure every organization seems like they're different, but I gotta imagine that they all have some ties in some capacity.
yeah. I'm not really sure. Like, I don't feel like USATF has much of a say in anti-doping stuff. I don't know. Maybe there's things that go on with that, like behind the curtain. I'm not really sure. But like I think it'd be great if either USATF or USADA or like Water like came out like with, because like athletes take supplements and vitamins, and like if they came out with their own like line of vitamins or supplements that, hey, you can actually trust this, every batch has been tested, like at least that kind of, and if you do test positive off of those supplements, like at least some of the accountability is being thrown more in the other direction as well, of like, okay, you told me that this was okay, like I don't know, I'm just like spitballing ideas. But like I don't know, it's hard, like how can we have a little bit more of a checks and balance in this system when it feels like there's really none and there's no repercussions for them getting it wrong, like like it's all on the athlete. So but like, yeah, I mean, as far as like USATF goes, I don't know that there's really anything that they can do, or any say that they have. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
There are many people that are skeptical about this burrito story and believe that you were caught cheating and punished for that. Like, how do you gain back the trust and support to those that, I'm thinking of like 5-year-old girls that look up to you and want to be like, I want to be like Shelby Houlihan one day, but mom's telling me, well, she's a cheater. Like she blatantly cheated. And like, I can only imagine what that's like for you to hear that. And like, trying to be the inspiration for the next coming of runners up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Like I think people that do just have the opinion that I did it, um, I don't know that there's really anything that I could say that would change their mind. So it's like, if you're open-minded and you just, there are questions that you have, you're not really sure either way, I am so down to have a conversation and try to answer questions, like genuinely. I'm not a scientist, I'll do the best I can. But like I won't shy away from a conversation, especially if you have an open mind or just are unsure. And hopefully I could clear some things up. Maybe I can't, maybe like you still think I cheated, and that's fine. Like I think it's hard. I don't expect blind trust. Like if you don't know me, I've done nothing to earn your trust, and that's fine. Like I don't really expect that. And if you're giving it to me, that amazing. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's hard. I don't really have anything, I guess, to say to the people that like really it I think the hardest part is people that are really closed-minded, aren't informed, and just kind of like ignorant and still like saying horrible things, where I'm like, I'll like read a comment, I'm like, you clearly like didn't even like follow the case, like that's just like not true. So it's like things like that I don't really have, I'm not going to waste time and energy on, because that's just, there's nothing that I'm going to be able to say. But like I don't know, I guess in some ways I like genuinely am curious, like what would it take for you to trust me? Like is there even anything? Because like I said before, like I wish I could show you the truth, because if I could, I wouldn't have just served a 4-year ban. Like I want the truth more than anyone in the world. And unfortunately, like that's not something that I was able to figure out. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I'm just trying to conduct myself in a way that I'm proud of. And hopefully, people can see my character, and they can make their own assumptions or opinions based off of that. But like I said, like I'm definitely down to having a conversation or answering questions or whatever that is. But yeah.
Do you have any regrets about the whole situation? I mean, what for the moment that you walked into that burrito store, which I can assume that you've never been to this burrito store ever since that
I have not.
situation, or just maybe the friendships that you might have lost, whether it was on the track or like just the trust and people that they had in you. I mean, you're the American record holding the 1500. Like, how can we believe that 1500 was not cheated as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't, right? Like, you have to trust that I'm telling you the truth. And
Mhm.
I give you my word, I did not cheat. It is real. I am clean. And my word might not mean anything to some people, but it means a lot to me. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, there's like at the end of the day, like you just have to hopefully trust me or not trust me. It's your decision. I think it's hard to Like, it's fine if you don't blindly trust me, but also don't blindly trust the organization, because if we're always distrusting the athlete and we're always blindly trusting the organization, then how is this ever going to improve? And how are we going to like really be able to like look at what's wrong and do something different?
When,
Um,
when you say organization, what do you mean organization?
Anti-doping organizations.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's easy to always, oh, the athlete's lying. It's easy to assume that and always assume that the organizations are doing it the right way. But as we know and have seen in the world, like a lot of the times organizations that hold power over other people, they're not always run the way that we think they are. Um, so I don't know. You don't have to blindly trust me, but also don't blindly trust that. Don't blindly trust anything. Do your research. As far as regrets though, like to answer your question, I don't know, like I'm not really someone that like tries to like I don't try to live my life with regrets. Like I would say the only thing that I would maybe that I've looked back and might have done differently, I think I would have wanted to tell my teammates sooner. Um I didn't want to tell them. There's a couple reasons. Like, I think just we did try to keep it really under wraps when I found out that there was a positive test because I never wanted anyone to ever question my integrity or my character. Like, I didn't want people to think like, oh, is she a cheater? Like, like that. I didn't want that narrative to get out because I knew it wasn't true, but I knew people would run with it. Um, and so trying to like I try to really keep that group that knew small. So there's only really like 10 people that knew um, throughout the whole 5-month ordeal. I told a very small group of people, and didn't want to, like, yeah, like I said, I didn't want it to get out, but also, like, I didn't want, it's an Olympic year. I didn't want to take energy from my teammates because they were preparing to try to make an Olympic team. And it was really emotionally draining to like go through it for that whole 5 months. So
That's a very, very mature move on your part too. I mean, like at the time, I mean, I know you were 27 at the time, but like, to take that spotlight away and make sure they had the ones to spotlight, that's a very, very mature thing, I think, at least in my opinion.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's, yeah, it's not like, because you do want the support, and I did have the support from some people, just like that emotional support. But yeah, I didn't want anyone to be worrying about it, and so that was a huge reason why I didn't tell people as well. And it ended up kind of biting me in the ass because I was trying to trust the process, and I was like, I'm not going to get banned. Like I can't get banned. That's not how this is supposed to go. And it ended up happening, and then we had to tell the team uh, the week before the trials, which was the worst time. And so I feel horrible that they didn't know sooner, and that's like when they found out with like along with the public, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that sucked. So I think looking back, I would have told them sooner. Maybe I should have just been transparent about it through the entire process. Like maybe I should have gone public and like let people know what was going on. Like I don't know. It's hard to know what the right decision is. And yeah, I felt like I did what I thought was best in the moment. And so I really like don't have regrets, but that might be one that I would do differently. And maybe not foregoing that first trial with the AIU, because we skipped that and went straight to court of arbitration because they weren't responding to anything and the trials were coming up fast. And so we skipped the first trial, tried to expedite a court of arbitration hearing. So I lost out on the first one. And like part of me wonders like if we would have been more patient, like would it have changed anything? But like
Or had you
maybe
not,
it wouldn't have.
or had you not skipped that trial, like could their mindset been a little bit different as to how they would have, is she guilty? Is she not guilty? I mean, like, but maybe at the time you weren't prepared for that case. I mean,
Yeah.
is that an accurate statement?
Well, no, I mean like we were definitely like the way that it goes, like you have to provide an answer to what happened within 7 days after getting notified. And so that's not a very long time to try to figure out
No,
what
it's not.
happened when you have no answers. And so we did everything we could, and we asked for an extension, and they gave us 3 more days. So I think in total we had 10 days. And getting hair sampled, a polygraph test, getting someone to go to the food truck to get all the different meats that they offered, sending off my supplements. I didn't have the originals of some supplements, so it's like, okay, like let's go to the Safeway that I buy my vitamins at and like try to see if hopefully they're in the same batch. We'll send those off, and just like, you're doing so much. I felt like we were prepared to go. Like, I felt confident going into it because I was like, how can they look at all this and like think that I'm lying? Like, and especially there's like a polygraph test that I passed. Like, it's and I don't know. I don't know if maybe we would have gone to the first hearing, and I'm sure I don't think, I don't know if this is true, but I don't think anyone really ever wins a hearing against the AIU. And I could be wrong
Really?
about that. Fact check me, please. So like,
I couldn't tell you about that because, like I said, I've never been in your position before. I hope to never be in that position because I
yeah,
probably will never be a track and field professional athlete. But
yeah, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
and if anybody out there really wants to fact check Shelby for that, by
please
all
do.
means, go for it.
But yeah, like, I mean, maybe we would have lost that first trial, and maybe then we would have figured out, okay, this is what we need to do better, or like, I don't know, like maybe it could have been a learning point. But maybe we do that and it still all ends up the same way. So it's like, it's hard to really say that I regret things, but I think those telling my teammates sooner, or maybe just waiting out and saying, yeah, I'm just going to miss the Tokyo Olympics, and do the first hearing. Like maybe that would have been the two things. I don't know. I didn't want to miss the Olympics. I felt so ready to go. So it's just like, what can we do to make sure I get there? And so that was kind of we did the best we could, with what we knew at the time.
Those teammates and coaches of yours, like I can imagine they stood by your side for those 10 days before that first hearing. But like, I mean, how many of them really stuck around afterwards when they found out, well, you got this 4-year ban and you can't train with us, you can't run with us. Let's just go away from Shelby and kind of let her do her own thing. Was there a lot of that the last 4 years where just people kind of come and go?
Not like too much. Like honestly, I'd say it was largely on my end. I definitely like didn't want people to feel uncomfortable, and so I really pulled away, and kind of made the decision for them, which ended up being even more isolating and hard for me.
Hmm?
But I didn't, I guess, yeah, it's hard. Like I would say I felt supported and loved by my teammates the whole time. Obviously I couldn't really like do like train with them or anything like that. But I would go up to altitude camp on my own, and I would get dinner with them, or like we'd have a game night. So like I was still like hanging out with my friends, and so that was super helpful. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the actual training goes, like I really pulled away, for myself. I wasn't sure, just like I wasn't sure that people would tell me if they were uncomfortable. And maybe that's just a trust issue on my part. Because yeah, I just wanted to be safe, and I didn't want to make other people uncomfortable. So I really personally like just pulled away, and tried to like, I guess, isolate myself in that way. And that was hard.
Do your own thing. But I mean, do you feel like then because you did that, there were relationships that were lost and that you can't rebuild them again?
No, I don't think so. I still like, if anything, my relationships with my friends are even stronger than they were before, just from going through everything. I don't feel like I really lost any friendships, um, or anything like that. Like I've tried to be a better friend for like just like going through this and everything. And I feel like I've grown a ton, and I've tried to be more intentional about being a better friend and reaching out and checking in on people. And they've done the same for me. And so like, yeah, it's, I feel like if anything, my relationships have gotten stronger and better.
When you kind of being taken away from something that you may or may not know if you ever get back into, you have to find something to keep yourself occupied. You did some DoorDash, I heard, when you were trying to figure out life again, just to make ends meet. How'd you survive on that? And when you would go deliver stuff, I don't know how many track and field fans out there probably would recognize Shelby Houlihan, but if you were probably a big fanatic, you'd be like, Shelby, why are you giving me my food right now?
Yeah. No, I never ran into that, luckily. Um, I kind of did that. I was just kind of like, I want to keep training, but it's
Mhm.
hard to find something that you can make money off. Um, and that also gives you that like flexibility and independence to make your own schedule. So it just like kind of felt like, okay, like why not do this? Like let's try this. Um, and it was fine. I did some like Instacart as well, and Meowtel was the other one. Like I was cat sitting.
What's that?
I was just a cat sitter, and it was great. I actually really liked it. I'm a cat
Okay.
person, so yeah, I would go over to people's houses and I would cat sit for them. It was great. I
Did
loved
they,
it.
but did they know who was watching their cat though?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean
did
they
they know?
hired me. Yeah.
I know they hired you, but like, did they see your name? It's like,
Oh
do
no,
we know this person?
no, I don't think so.
That,
Yeah,
because that would have just not been like, I had somebody watch my cat. Who was it? Shelby Houlihan. Are you kidding me?
yeah.
Or something like something along those lines. Like that's so interesting because I mean during COVID, and I think a lot of people were doing this. Like I did DoorDash and Instacart too,
Mhm.
because that was the only thing you could really do for people at the time. Like I can imagine like because what was your degree out of Arizona State?
Uh, Computational mathematical sciences and business is
I don't know exactly what you could
basically
do
computer
for
science, essentially.
yeah, so well, okay, so maybe you could have like, decided I'm going to pursue my degree here, but instead, because you so love this sport, you still want to be involved in some capacity. Like, you know what? I'm going to do something else that still allows me to do this sport. I mean, was is that the way you kind of approached it? It was like I still got to do this sport.
Yeah, it was like, and also I have no interest in computer science. It was just like I got too far into the degree and then like, okay, I can't like I have to graduate or I'm not gonna graduate on time now. I don't really want to do anything with it, which is why I went back to school and got my master's in sport and performance psychology. I'm way more interested in that. But yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely like, okay, what is something that gives me the flexibility and like independence to make my own schedule? And something that I kind of like enjoy. Cat sitting was great. I also briefly looked at
Excuse me.
trying to like get a job as building van life vans. I thought that would be super cool. Like I'm an active person. I like working with my hands and stuff. So like that would be sick.
You're from Iowa. I mean, that's just you're blue collar people is what you are.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, just give me like the hands-on job that I can do. Like learning how to build out van life stuff would be so sick because I have my VW bus and like that would be cool to like learn how to like flip that and like improve that. But yeah, that didn't really end up working out. The hours were kind of a lot and it wasn't really like I don't have any experience. I'm not just gonna like hire someone like, yeah, you can come and do this. Like, so it was like that was kind of a little bit of a pipe dream, but I don't know. It was just definitely brainstorming of like what sounds fun and what gives me that flexibility. Um, Cat sitting ended up kind of being it. So yeah, that was really where I probably made the most money off of. But yeah, I mean, I also, moved out of my place in Beaverton, and so I was renting that out, and so that was kind of like paying the mortgage. I had no rent for the last almost 2 years. And so just like I stuck everything that I needed for the next like year and a half in my Jeep, and then I just left and put everything else in a storage unit. Um, and I've been kind of like nomading it and crashing on families like at families' places, whether that's like my parents, my brother in Colorado. My sister at the time had lived in Denver, so I spent like 6 weeks out there. Another sister, was in Iowa City, so I was staying with her and uh, offering to pay rent. Most of them were like, "No, it's fine. Like, just pay for some groceries." I'm like, "All right, cool, I can do that." But yeah, I mean, really, ultimately, it was just like cutting back on all expenses. I'm not really someone that spends a lot of money anyway. I prefer to spend money on adventures and traveling. I don't need new clothes or anything like that. So that was really, and I would pay all of my bills and everything with credit cards, and then I would use the credit card points to go travel. And like, I kind of had it figured out for the most part, but I've made it through 4 years. I don't know that I can make it much longer, so hopefully I get a sponsorship soon. So yeah, I think I budgeted out appropriately, but yeah, definitely would love a sponsorship soon.
What kept you going the past few years? I mean, I can imagine there's a lot of, whether it's people or the actual sport. I know you said you didn't watch a ton of the track just when you were away from it for a while, but
Mhm.
I mean, the world's getting faster. The world's getting fitter. I mean, you saw probably these last Olympics, what it takes to win a 1500 Olympic gold title now. I mean, that's like, where do you feel like you're gonna be able to hop right back in and be with the world's best?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously like I know how fast people are running, and it's awesome, honestly. Like it's so cool that people are running that fast and raising the bar. Um, it's also been hard to watch because it's just like I should be in that race. So that doesn't feel great. But it is cool to see how fast people are running, especially, you know, in the US. Everyone's running so fast, and that's super cool. And we're contending for medals, and that's amazing. It's been really fun to watch. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think ultimately I'm super stubborn. So it's just like I said earlier, it's kind of that like fuck you, I'm gonna decide and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna see what I'm capable of. Um, I think I obviously love the sport and I love running. Otherwise, I wouldn't have trained the last 4 years like I had. Like I've been quietly training and doing everything I need to do. Like I you can't. I feel like that's hard to do if you don't love it, especially when you have nothing to train for. Um, and then in some ways, and I think this has gotten better, but definitely at first it was somewhat of an unhealthy reliance on running. Like I said, like I didn't know who I was without running, so I hung on to it for a long time. Like it took me probably 2 years into the band to realize like I can't stop doing this because I like don't feel like I have any worth outside of this. And so like I think realizing that um it definitely made me go figure that out. Which is why I went back to school and I tried to like really, okay, what are my values? What are my interests? What other things am I interested in or passionate about or what sounds fun? Um, and so, but yeah, I mean, that's also what kept me going for a while was like I couldn't stop. I like needed to keep doing it. But yeah, ultimately, I think I just really am very curious about like what am I capable of? I think I'm one of the best in the world. I think I can break world records, American records, medal. And if I can't, that's totally fine. Like I don't need to do that. I just like genuinely feel like I can, and I want to see if I can. That's always been the drive, I suppose, is just that curiosity. And that's never changed. That's still where it's at.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you talk about wanting to break these records, but I mean, how are you going to get people to believe that you're not doing anything now? I mean, like that's the other thing. It's like that you got this past, you got this baggage behind you that shows proof, whether you want to believe it or not, that says you were tested positive for a drug, and you want to go out there saying like, "Hey, I want to go break these world records," but like, well, how will we know? I mean, only you obviously will know that you haven't taken anything. How do you go out there with the mindset of like, you want people just whatever, if you want to believe me or not, that's fine. But I'm gonna go out there and do the best I can.
I mean, I think it's ultimately that, like, I can't control whether or not people believe me. Like, I know that
Mhm.
I never cheated. I know that I do things the right way. And so I'm gonna just like be secure and confident in that. And, I think the people around me know who I am. They know I would never do that. And they support me. And yeah, I can't control whether or not people are gonna trust me. I can show up and say what I like. It just doesn't matter, like um I think I've found a lot of peace in just allowing people to be wrong. Like, there's just nothing that I can do. If you're open to having the conversation, I'm open to it. And that's all I can do is really like, I can try to answer your questions. I'm here to answer questions if you need um, any answers. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, focus on what I can control and let people be wrong.
And the first opportunity you will get, as we just found out recently, you will have a set date for your season opener, February 1st, and it's at the Arkansas Invitational in Fayetteville. Just you know, what do you what's the thought going into that? What do you expect to happen? What do you expect from the crowd, yourself, the field? I, there's so many different questions that we could go on and on even more for another half hour, probably just about this one
Yeah.
particular meet.
Yeah. I think I'm trying to go in with no expectations. I think sometimes when you have expectations of how something should or what you want it to go and then it doesn't, it's just you're kind of setting yourself up to be disappointed or frustrated or whatever that is. So I don't have any expectations going into this. I hope that it is positive and supportive and fun. Um, and if it's not, then I'm gonna do my best to mentally prepare for that as well. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to do a just kind of more low key meet, I guess. Just get the rust off, get the nerves out, try to like just put myself back out there. Because it's scary. Like I haven't raced in 4 years. I don't know. I think I'm fit. But it's hard to really judge that when you've had no like way to test it. And I've obviously like been working out by myself, so it's like that's also so much harder. I don't have a real gauge. I don't know where I'm at. I hope that I'm fit. I hope it's gonna be good. I just really doing this like I'm gonna do a 3K and I just need a time qualifier to get to US indoors. So that's really like what I'm going there to do is like a little bit of rust buster and just go get a 3K time. And then, do probably a hopefully fast mile at BU the week after. But yeah, it's like I said, no expectations. Just I do hope that it's fun and positive, and supportive, and yeah, we'll see.
Has your team prepared you for, potentially the crowd booing you? Maybe athletes walk off the track and don't want to do this race because, I mean, there's so many different circumstances that could happen at this first race when you come back.
Yeah, it's I think it just kind of goes back to like I can't control that, and if people are gonna react that way, like there's really nothing that I can do. I I've gotten to a place I think the last few years I've noticed that I have a tendency to like make myself small um with when I don't know how someone's going to react to me. Like I'll go to this was probably like a couple of years ago, just like going to a track where other runners are, and I am terrified. Like I have so much anxiety and stressed. I just try to like go into a corner and like keep to myself, and I still do that a little bit. I'm definitely just more of a shy person. Um, but I noticed that I was just like really making myself small because I didn't want to make anyone else uncomfortable, and so I'm like I need to stop doing that. Like, I need to like stand up for myself and like I have worth here and I have value here and I can't control. I can show up as myself. I can be kind and friendly towards people. And if they don't want to be friendly back, that's not on me. That's on them. Um, so I think just kind of trying to like I don't want someone else to take away from me. I'm going to try to show up as myself and be friendly and kind. That's who I am. And if someone else doesn't want to reciprocate that, then there's nothing I can do about that. But yeah, I mean, I hope that competitors are friendly and respectful. And if they're not, yeah, I don't know. I can't really do anything about it. I can have a
No, you can,
conversation if
and
they're open to it, but yeah.
no, and you're right. And I think that that might be the way it goes for the next, who knows, maybe it's the next year or so where you're gonna have to like, sit down with people and just, talk with them like this was my situation. Like this is what I've dealt with the last 4 years, believe me or not. But I'm gonna stay true to myself. Again, like I think it takes a lot of courage for somebody to, have this type of conversation we're having right now. I mean, I'm sure you've done it multiple times with people, but like this was definitely first going into it a little uncomfortable for me. I'm sure it was probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable for you, but I really appreciate you that your willingness to open up into a topic. That's hard. And as we talked, I think a couple weeks ago, like I wanted to have this interview as something that was uncomfortable, that was not about just praising the fact that you're back. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're getting a second chance. I believe a lot of people deserve second chances.
Honestly, to the people that have supported me, I genuinely I appreciate it, and it's helped keep me moving in the last 4 years. And even if you don't believe me, I did 4 years, I'm coming back. There's
Mm,
I served the time if you don't believe me, and so what is there left to say, I guess. But I mean, I know I didn't cheat. That was never something that I would have done, nor will I ever in the future either. So I hope people can trust that what I'm doing on the track is me. Um, I wouldn't have it any other way. I would be pissed if it was any other way. So but yeah, no, I do really appreciate the conversation. Having more yeah, just having an open, honest conversation about it, and I do appreciate the support from people that want to see me succeed.
And I know you're a huge Harry Potter fan, and I know you just recently got a new tattoo, which is a
Yes.
nice little phoenix that
Oh yeah.
rises from the ashes. So obviously there's a message from that, I would assume.
Yeah, it was something that I had kind of been thinking about the last couple years, and yeah, it kind of sounds cheesy. It's just I definitely feel like I, I there's a part of me that just kind of died, when all of this happened, and I really had to start over and build myself up and figure out who am I without this, and what do I want from this sport. And my relationships with it has changed, and my relationship with myself has changed, and it's just I feel like such a more well-rounded human being after going through it. I wish that this is not what it took to get there. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the meaning behind the Phoenix. I feel like I'm kind of rising from the ashes, I guess. And plus, I love Harry Potter, so it just kind of
What's
all
your
fit.
favorite?
It
What's
made
your
sense.
what's your what's your favorite? Not episode because that's Star Wars, but what's your favorite Harry Potter movie?
The sixth one, the Half-Blood Prince. Yeah,
And
just
anything you're taking away from that movie that you want to use in real life here in?
no, but well, there's a lot of things that you could take from Harry Potter to use in real life, but there's a quote actually that kind of has helped me through the last 4 years. I believe it's in the, oh wait, is it in the seventh movie? Wow, I need to fact check myself on that. I'm embarrassed. But Hagrid says, "What's coming will come, and we'll meet it when it does." And so that's just a quote that I've told myself through all of this, where it's just don't get too ahead of myself, don't look into the future, and don't catastrophize what might happen, but what's coming is going to come, and I'll meet it when it comes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us learned that during COVID too, when you're like, you don't know what the future has in store and you kind of just have to take it day by day. And I think that's the right approach. Again, Shelby, really appreciate your time hopping on here and having this conversation. I know, like I said, it's difficult, but people are curious and they want to know like where your head is at. And we'll be able to get to see you finally back on the track for the first time in 4 years. February 1st, of course, everybody turn into the Arkansas Invitational. If it's streaming somewhere, I would assume it's
Hopefully.
streaming somewhere.
Yeah, we'll see.
Um, yeah, but again, Shelby, really appreciate your time. Good luck on February 1st, and hopefully we can catch up again sometime soon and talk about what's next for you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate the conversation. Thanks.